Hi everyone, this is Norman Kochnick here from Eyes on Cricket. Could just quickly do one little thing. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Can you all hear me nice and loud and clear? Obviously the game is still ongoing. Shafiq is not at some 39 with Azhar Ali not at some 25. The score is 1 for 78. Imam Al-Haq was out LBW to Cummins for 11. But Pakistan, after 32 overs, have been very, very resolute in their batting, and they're actually now 1 for 78. So they're only some 313 or thereabouts behind, and only having lost 1 wicket. They're in a pretty good state of affairs, and it's a very good situation to be in. Pakistan is certainly well on top. Well, I shouldn't say well on top. They're in a good position, put it that way. Mohsen Sheikhs has joined me. How are you?
Hi, Norman. Hi to yourself and your audience, mate. Day 2.
Oh, it's great to watch. The match has ebbed and flowed again. Obviously, there were 235 over 9, I think it was, Australia.
Yep.
And they were looking particularly good, and I just love it. I just laughed my head off. Simon Kadich, who I know and is very, very astute cricketing brain, made the classic faux pas, and Mike Hazeman pulled him up. He said, "Oh, Cameron Green and Alex Carey are batting so well. I'm certain they're going to get centuries." Blah blah blah. And he goes, "Oh, don't say that, don't say that." And exactly what happens? A ball later, bang, out went Carey, and then not long after, they both batted very well. But
really well,
as I said earlier, yet again, no Australian batsman scored a century. Yet again.
But the thing is, you got to give them credit. We spoke about this last night, that the start of this day 2 is so critical, because if Pakistan would have come out harder and got those 2 out early, Australia would have been looking at the barrel of sub 300. But with the 100+ partnership between Carey and Green, what has that done is they've gone just under 400, which is a really good score on this pitch. You've seen already a few opportunities gone. Azhar, a couple of edges gone between slip and a keeper, and then Imam's again LBW. I think Aussies have worked him out, going around the wicket, trying to smash his front pad, and he falls over a little bit, for which he's been dismissed cheaply in last 3 innings, 2 in Karachi and 1 here now. So that's something that he's got to go away and work with Mohammad Yusuf and the co. But the best part of this morning was partnership between Carey and Green, which allowed the tail to come in and try and wreck something. And Naseem Shah has been the pick of the bowler for me, even though Shaheen ended up with 4 wickets as well. For me, Naseem Shah was the pick of the bowlers. He swung the ball.
Magnificent.
He's hit the areas, and he's bowled with some really good control. And I think it looked like Sean Tate's conversation. You saw the pre-warm-up, he was talking to him and Shaheen Afridi next to the wicket block, and he was talking about he's picking out the areas where he wanted them to bowl. And I think those 2 guys have really clicked well and listened to him and responded well. So really intriguing first session. And even second session, what Pakistan are 1 for 70 odd. I think they're still looking to score with a bit of intent now, with balls getting older and softer. It'd be interesting to see post tea. That last 20 minutes. If Aussies can pull up another wicket here, then I think the day belongs to Australia.
Well, they're just showing the ICC men's team test rankings. This is not the World Test Championship. This is the test rankings in general. And Australia are on top, which is not surprising, but not by a hell of a lot. In fact, India is second, New Zealand are third, England are fourth, fifth is South Africa, and sixth is Pakistan. So this is not the World Test Championship, but the
No.
so-called ranking. So they've got Pakistan on 6th position now. They're on 93 and Australia's on 119. I would imagine that will be changed shortly. That was as of the 21st of March. You would think, I mean, if Pakistan won this match, they would probably jump ahead of quite a few of them. But it is interesting as to the way it's structured. Yeah, it's I don't quite know. I don't quite get that ranking and the World Test Championship ranking. I don't quite get the two. You would think they would be mirrored somewhat, wouldn't they? If you're ranking a team, a test team, and you're looking at the World Test Championship, you would think that the ranking, unless it's a different cycle of days, but I don't quite understand it. But anyway,
4-year cycle for ranking and 2-year cycle for Test Championship.
Sorry?
It's a 4-year cycle for the ranking and 2-year cycle for the Test Championship. I'll have to have a look at that in detail, but the thing with the Test Championship is purely based on that window that ICC has created for the 2 years calendar, and win-loss ratios is the key in there, not the winning points. It's the rate, it's the percentage is what it is critical. And teams like Pakistan who don't play enough Test matches, percentage becomes bigger.
They really need to come with if they're going to provide a ranking or a table, they need to come with a little scale down below saying this is how we come up with it.
Yes,
something has to be.
They have a bit of a ledger or a bit more explanatory table or something, and for a general audience to go, this is what the basis of the numbers are, to explain it for general public.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would definitely say with Australia, India, New Zealand, England, South Africa, Pakistan, I would argue that both definitely England and South Africa should be below Pakistan now. New Zealand, they had the win and the loss against South Africa, but I would argue that Pakistan's probably third or potentially second. If they win this Test series, they're definitely second, with India perhaps favouring the first position. It's hard. It's very hard to work out, so I won't try and go with it now.
No.
The way that Pakistan's played this series has been fantastic. I'm not going to make the same mistake that Simon Kadich and try to praise these two batsmen. But Azhar Ali, great career that he has had. He's some 93 off in the 94th Test. Almost getting closer and closer to 7,000 Test runs. I've liked him a lot. At a time that you and I had dinner with him over at in Parramatta there at Kamal Khan's formal restaurant.
That's right.
Yeah, that was very impressive. He's a lovely, very nice man. I really like him. And
very good and very down to earth human being.
I just praised him, and he almost got out. Oh, geez, I should never do that. He's Mr. Ball Outside or something. He almost got out. Yeah. But he just seems to know he knows his limitations. Because let's be honest, he's not exactly the most fluent of batsmen. He's a bit awkward, but he knows where his limitations are, and he plays within that. He does drive the ball well, and he hits the ball well over the wicket and the like. But he generally is a bit awkward looking. But the bowler that's impressing me this evening is Cummins. He seems to have together. Starts having a bit of a shocker.
The whole series, Cummins have come really well. Cummins have come really well by far in this 3-test series. He's bowled well with the older ball. He's reversed the ball well, and I think Stark, after one spell in Karachi, he hasn't presented as much. You would have liked to see a bit more from Stark. Even now, he hasn't really done well. Second innings in Karachi, he was very ineffective as well. So I don't know what's is it exhaustion or whether he's overworked. He hasn't been rested post Ashes as well. He's played all the Test matches there as well. So I don't know if there's anything in terms of fatigue, but Cummins definitely has come by far the best bowler for Aussie side.
Well, there's no doubt that the selection of Azim has been a masterstroke from Pakistan. He almost got a 5 for Shaheen bowled well too. It just seems Australia have just at this early stage of the Test match, I just feel they haven't got it right. They're certainly bringing Cameron Green into play at the moment. Cameron Green is certainly getting more of a go, and he seems to be bowling quite well. But I'm not impressed with Stark, and I really think if they dug deep and really were critical of their side selection, the team selections, Stark shouldn't have played this match. I really think they should have looked at either a Boland. Boland would have been interesting to see how he would go, and definitely Agar. I think they've made a mistake in this match. Last match, they seemed to be okay with what they did, but this match, and even Swepson's, the bowling Swepson, I don't know.
Abdullah Shafiq is probably the only.
Sorry.
Yeah. He's Swepson's still not quite there, and that's not knocking the guy. He is new to Test cricket and baptism of fire to be playing here. Alex Carey, when we go back to his batting, he looked quite sound, but he's not converting to hundreds. I know that sounds very tough, but you know, you've got to judge a person by their century scoring. And I know he's a keeper, but he is a noted batsman, and he's just something's just not quite there. Cameron Green, I forgive him not getting a century because he is an all-rounder and he's batting so well and bowling so well. He, as he gets older, if he keeps in the same trajectory, he will score many centuries and take many fifers. He's bowling right now, and he's bowling a very good short ball.
Yeah, no, he's looking his numbers are improving day by day. His presence in the field is improving day by day, and he's proving to be that strong all-rounder that they were looking for post Shane Watson. They've stuck with Marsh for a bit of time, but then inconsistent form and injuries led Marsh to be pushed out of Test team. And when I saw Green in first class circuit couple of years ago, he really looked $1 million because his numbers against state teams are averaging 60 with the bat, which is really, really good. And I think, as you said, as he grows older, gain experience, especially in the subcontinent with this another 6 test matches in subcontinent this year, then goes back to England for the Ashes. I think he will come out in this 2-year cycle. He will be a cemented all-rounder, barring he keeps his body fit and keeps doing what he's doing. I think he's got really potential to play that long stint as an all-rounder, and I think he will do well. In terms of Carey, he looked well, and then he started reverse sweeping and whatnot. Started to get a bit funky, and that's when he started to lose a little bit of concentration before he got out to a spinner again. I think he's got to learn quick because obviously there's a barrage of wicketkeeper batsmen behind him. First of all is Inglis right behind him. I think Carey's got to start doing, as you said, converting those 50s into 100s. I think that's the key for him to keep his spot.
There's just quick. I was just talking there. This is just showing the most runs this series. Wasn't quite. It's still the highest, 392. Shafiq's on 329. Imam Al Haq, surprisingly, he's 300. Bob Azam's 260 or so. And I just have to quickly comment. There's a few people. I think it's Baram Irani, who we know well, and even the likes of who was it? It's Himanshu Ruhela. I'm saying this is the most boring series ever. I'm going to be really nasty now and say you guys are not Test cricket aficionados to say that, because a Test cricket tragic actually absolutely adores this series.
Exactly right. And you heard from our friend David as well that he was saying that this is what Test cricket is all about. A grind sometimes, and then attack sometimes, and then trying to take wickets. I know pitches in Lahore and Karachi have not been really supportive to the bowling side, but that's probably one of the challenges. And the Test match did come alive with the first inning poor batting by Pakistan, or you can reflect and say good bowling by Australia as well. But it did came alive. And I think the fight here with the reverse swing ball and it's quite even this pitch is with bat and ball. It's spinning as well. It's got a bit more pace in the pitch, I think there's potential if Pakistan can bat out today without any further loss and bat whole day on day 3. I think day 4 and day 5 is going to be really interesting.
But you understand what I'm talking about, don't you? When I say this is, I'm riveted by this. I just love this. It's just a test of character of both the batters and the bowlers.
Exactly.
Even though you might think, oh, it's just easy. The batsmen just go out there and do what they're doing and take. No, I don't agree. I think it's an innings from like an innings from Boycott when he was batting, or Chris Tavares was some of the most enthralling performances because Australian bowlers were trying to get them out and they wouldn't allow them. And that was a great test of their stamina, their a war of attrition. That is what Test cricket was made for.
Exactly right. Exactly.
I mean, I know it's not as exciting, but it is. If you really digest it the way you should be enjoying the battle and the frustrations and the nothingness when you need to survive that. It is the most difficult thing to do is to bat when you, not so much that you think it's a draw, but it's to bat and survive and to wear the other team down is incredible skill, in my opinion, because it's beyond physical, it's mental.
Yeah, absolutely, 110%, and also physical as well. Remember the tests in 70s and early 80s? They used to have rest day. So 3 days of cricket, and they would have a rest day to recapture, recover, and then come back and finish the test off. These days, they play 5 days in a row. There's no rest day. There's no bigger gaps between the 2 test matches. There was only like 2 or 3 days between each test match. So the recoveries on a body is lesser and lesser. There's no practice. There's no practice matches to get used to the conditions. So I think Test cricket is getting to a point which is, when we consider it is tougher, it is still a real test of all the challenges, the mental and the physical. But to take the Test match to the last ball of or last over of Test match, and then coming out even Stephen, I think it's still a intriguing Test match. It's still, for traditionalists, I think it's still a classic series.
And look, all Test series are not like this. We know that. You go to a place like India, it's over in 2 or 3 days. You go to Australia, it's over in 2 or 3 days. You go to New Zealand, there's a lot of swing and movement, but it's all over very quickly. Okay, it's not all about how quickly the game is over. It's about how a person survives a period. And I'm not knocking the people who are saying that it's boring, but they probably haven't, not quite as old as I am. And I do think age has something to do with it, where I've seen some classics where a Rick McCosker with a broken jaw came out in the second innings and defended resolutely. Even Graham Smith, when he broke his hand, was trying to face Mitchell Johnson on the SCG when there was massive cracks there. And all he was doing was missing and letting balls go. I mean, phenomenal character. It's a real test.
Exactly.
And I do think the person who called it a test is that only had that in their mind.
Exactly.
Well, in those days, of course, can you guys imagine this test now, or this series being an limitless number of days? You just play until. Can you imagine what it would have been like? I mean, it's
oh, it'd be great. It'd be great. You'd be
okay, let's just take away, we've all got to go work, we're all going to do other things in life, we've got a family or whatever. Let's take all that out of the equation and allow a test match to be endless, limitless days. It'd be the most enthralling. Probably people would be half dead on the field trying to keep awake and being stiff. And it's a very different scenario. And even more so, playing cricket on a ground where they don't cover the pitches. Exactly. In those days, it's just hard for us to imagine. But yeah, I mean, this ground was built. The Gaddafi Stadium was built in 1959, and I would love to have been. I mean, that whole surrounds. If you look at the aerial shots, you've seen the drone shots.
Yeah,
they showed the Olympics there.
Yeah,
it's magnificent. There's grounds everywhere.
The hockey ground that is just in the foreground, if you see that, hockey ground has got a capacity of 80,000 crowd, and they've played a final between India and Pakistan in mid-80s for Asia Cup, and 80,000 crowd. Can you imagine hockey game between India and Pakistan just in that hockey stadium, and still holds the record of highest number of capacity ground. So, and then next to it is a soccer ground, and there's a track and field, and then there's an academy ground behind it, and National Cricket Academy is just beside it as well. So I used to live in that National Cricket Academy for 2 years then when I was in Pakistan. The whole area around that cricket, it's just sporting fields, and a lot of Pakistan Olympics offices are there as well. So it just, when you go to this area, just you see a lot of athletes walking around. It's like you walk around AIS, where there's a lot of you see a lot of athletes walking around. You see a lot of officials and whatnot. So, and there's fantastic food places around the stadium as well. So it's got a bit of a character, this place has, and I loved it. Like I love Sydney Cricket Ground, the environment, the whole the presence of Sydney Cricket Ground. I love Gaddafi. It's just a bias in me.
It's such a big venue, and the ground's got huge expanses around the edge of the field. It must be picturesque. The only thing that disappoints me is there isn't a crowd, and I understand that people don't go to test matches as much. But to me, it is an amazing stadium, and I did say earlier in the series that I wanted to be there for the third test, but that hasn't eventuated. With my mother, the way she is not very well, I can't leave her alone, and I'm very disappointed because I would love to be there. As I said, there are 3 grounds in the world that I haven't been to that I'm gonna go to before I die. One is Gaddafi Stadium, especially now because they're playing cricket. I don't care who's playing there. Dharamshala in northern India, I haven't been to the Cape Town ground either. They're the 3 grounds that I've been to, probably without being too arrogant. I've been to everywhere else. I've been to all other grounds you can imagine. I've been everywhere, all over the West Indies, all over England and other Sri Lanka certainly, and India and the like. But I haven't been to those 3 grounds, and those are the grounds that I wish to go to. I think I counted. I've been to 140 so-called test or international grounds around the world, and I'm very proud of that.
Very good.
But they're 3 that I haven't been to, so I'm going to probably. Hopefully, they're playing Test cricket next year or the year after in Gaddafi. I'm going to go there. I don't care if Pakistan's playing, Kenya or something. I don't care who they're playing.
Well, England and New Zealand. So there's the 2 next series, and they definitely will play at Lahore. So there's an opportunity for you.
So I'm not hearing you. Sorry, I'm Luke.
Sorry, I just said that England and New Zealand both are going to be playing in Lahore in near future. So that's an opportunity there for you, Norman. If you're ready to travel, I think that's the time. Probably England series will be more interesting than New Zealand. But one of those series you'll see Pakistan play at Lahore. Definitely, and I hope our friend Harsh Rauf plays in one of those test matches as well.
Oh, it's just phenomenal. It's just even the way that they're sitting on these kind of deck chairs now, it just seems so relaxing. It's just, and I know there isn't a crowd, but I just think it's wonderful. It's yeah. I mean, Sean Tate's having a bit of a yawn there. I see he must be extremely happy with Nazim.
Yeah.
And on top of that, with players like, I'm sure, Harris Ralph. It won't be long before Harris Ralph plays Test cricket, especially because if Sean Tate's there and he sees him bowl the nets and the speed that he bowls at, he'll be pushing him through to a Test spot. I mean, again, Harris Ralph on this wicket today, he may have been not as accurate a bowler. He can spray them around a bit, we know that, but he would have got wickets.
Yeah, but we saw 8 wickets out of the 10 have gone to pace, real pace. Both Naseem bowled 140 plus, and same with Shaheen Shah bowled 140 plus, and pace has got the wicket. So, and even for Pakistan's 1 wicket to lose is going to Cummins as well. So everyone who's bowled 140 plus have got wickets. So I think pick Harris Rauf on pitches like this, he will be very effective. So imagine if you have three bowlers bowling 140 or mid 140s, and then you have two spinners coming in to hold your ends. I think that's the key. I still like to see a leg spinner on these type of pitch because there's a bit of bounce, bit of turn instead of the off spinner. I know there's the presence.
The Yashi Shah would have been pretty good, I reckon.
Absolutely, I think the presence of left-handers dictated an offie to be in the team rather than a leggy. But I think a quality leg spinner will trouble the left-handers as well, regardless. So my choice, I think, going forward would be to pick a leg spinner for Pakistan and get Harris Rauf in.
Now, Baramarani's just made a comment to say this is the first test that he's seen that is actually going from Monday to Friday, and he's made a very good point. I don't think there's ever been a test match started on Monday and finished on a Friday. It's bizarre, isn't it? And he's made another comment. He wants to go to Pyongyang in North Korea. Baram, I don't think they play cricket in North Korea. Nothing would shock me, but I'd be surprised if they play any cricket there.
Yeah, true.
All right, Baram.
But I think
I'm going to challenge Baram that one day he and I play a street game of cricket in Pyongyang and see how long we last until we get arrested.
People come and ask you what are you trying to do?
Well, I've actually been to North Korea. I went to South Korea. It's a long story, but I was in South Korea and I went to the border of South and North Korea under a tunnel, and they got these huge advertising boards that face from South Korea to North Korea, bagging North Korea on these advertising boards. It's quite funny. And you go under a tunnel, and there's a spot where two soldiers are backsides against each other, and that's the border of North and South Korea. So the soldiers are actually touching each other back to back on this border. It's the most bizarre thing. It's quite an interesting thing. I love Korean food, to be honest, but North Korea's bonkers, to be honest. But then for you to play cricket on the streets they probably think you're having you had hand grenades in your hand, and they probably put out a big warning or something. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, Azhar has progressed to 6,956 runs, so he's 44 short of 7,000 test runs. So will we see that in this innings? I don't want to jinx it, touch wood. I really like to see him progress and play 100 plus test matches and get on to 10,000 test runs. People are still backing him in Pakistan media. There was some channels who reported yesterday and day before yesterday, and they were asking for Azhar's head. He's only failed in one test match, and you can't just based on that you go, we don't want him in test cricket, because he's, regardless of what, he's played 94 test matches. His record is still good enough, reaching out towards 7,000 test runs. You can't knock him off. He's senior head in the team. He's captain Pakistan in test cricket as well. So I would continue with him for a few more years till the young lot is absolutely ready. And I think there's two spots. One is his, and the other one that I see coming up in the future is the Fawad Alam spot. So you've got to prepare next two batters for these spots and then let them go. Fawad Alam earlier than Azhar, obviously, but that's the two batting spots you got to fill up.
Well, there's some Hawks. It look like Hawks that are circling. They've got about another minute to 2 minutes of play. I think last over will be probably Cameron Green.
Yeah.
Pakistan on 1 for 87 after 38 overs, with Shafiq on 42 and Azhar Ali on 30. So they're effectively some 304 runs behind, which is I always don't like someone saying they're 304 runs behind or they're trailing. But in fact, they're not. They haven't performed their full innings, so you can't say they're trailing at all at this point. They're matching the score as best they can. So it's an interesting way of coining a phrase to say they're behind or they're trailing, because effectively that's not giving justice to the amount of time they play. Baran reckons he's been to he's been to Pyongyang twice. I'm beginning to wonder whether he's a double agent there. I wonder whether he's not sure what's going on.
You reckon 007 Irani? Wow.
Baran Irani, who is from India, who's living currently in the Philippines, has been to North Korea. There's something very suspicious about all of that going on now. I'm beginning to wonder what we've got here, whether he's running, he's a stool pigeon. So he's now saying they're not hawks, but they're Brahmini kites. Are we talking about kites as in flying kites, or there are birds called kites? Right? How would you know, Bram, around here, it's called a Brahmini kite? What are you, a bird expert now?
Good to hear.
I'm sure he's making that up.
Maybe he's got Google help as well. So I'd like to hear a bit of background on that. But
the Thinlay Buttia is saying this is another drawn match. I don't care, guys. I love this. I repeat, I don't care. I absolutely adore watching Abdullah Shafiq and Azhar Ali defending away and grinding away and driving Australia. I love it. I mean, in fact, Abdullah Shafiq, the more I watch him, the more I'm getting a feeling I'm watching at a Pujara.
He's very solid around his off stump. He's very organized. He hasn't fallen over.
And he looks at his bat the way that Pujara does too.
Pujara does. He's very, very. His hands are very soft through the ball as well, and he's balanced at the crease. His head position, everything you name it, is really in line. And the thing to like about him is he likes to bat long. He's already faced 114 deliveries, so he's one of those guys. He's also in Lahore Qalandar's T20 team as well. So he's not just a test cricketer of a traditional mode. He can play a quick innings. He batted for Lahore Qalandar in top order as well. In a 2020 competition, he batted well. And he's proving his worth that he's not just one mode cricketer. He can bat and bat long. And he's done in all 5 innings that he's currently played. He's faced over 100 deliveries, bar one, I think the one that he got run out in. But his runs speaks for himself. He scored over 300 runs so far, second to Uzi. There's a lot of things to like about Shafiq, I think.
I mean, you'd have to, if you asked Abdullah Shafiq, which I may go on the Pakistani, I never normally do this, but I wouldn't mind asking the question, have you modelled yourself or did you look up to Pujara? Because the batting stance, there's a lot of similarities. Now, again, back to Bahram. In my Fred time, he said I'm and I've never heard this term before, an ornithologist. What the hell is an ornithologist? Can you explain it to me? Is that a made-up word? I've never heard that before. I've heard of do you know what a proctologist is? That's where you put your finger up somebody's rear end to do some testing for something, and would be a very unpleasant job, I must say.
Exactly right.
Amir Nawaz says he loves me. Maybe after that comment about being proctology, maybe I'm not sure.
Maybe not sure.
Not sure. I'm not going to comment. So,
no.
But we're getting a very good close-up of Abdullah Shafiq and his batting stance.
Yeah.
And they're showing the wicket below him, and they're seeing him scratching his centre wicket mark. I don't know how he knows he scratched it, because whenever he puts his foot and scratches it, I'm seeing no movement of any dirt or anything at all going on there. I mean, it must be his imagination, because he's not creating anyway. No.
And you in the previous shot, you saw they showed the stump cam, and there's still cracks that are at good length, and those cracks have not really opened up. End of day 2. I think the sun beating on them, the cracks might have a bit more dry surface tomorrow, but I still think day 3 still would be a good day to bat on. It's day 4 and day 5 that I'm seeing a little bit more movement of the surface, ball staying low and reversing a lot and spinning and biting as well. Tomorrow, I think, still a good day to bat on. I don't see, and you see on TV Azhar Ali's family. Just first time watching him bat in a hometown. So what I was saying is, in a gist, that day 3 is still a really good day to bat.
Is there something about? I mean, this might sound strange, but people in Lahore look very good looking, both male and female. I'm looking at the people. There's some quite stylish looking dudes and some, very sharp looking girls as well. I mean, I'm very impressed.
Yeah, it's you just say it's a mirror of Sydney. So there are a lot of good-looking blokes and female, and you're one of them, Norman. So take a credit, mate. You're living in Sydney.
I must be Lahore. It must be a Lahore back on myself.
Must be laureate.
Baram Irani reckons that James Bond 007 is also an ornithologist. I'm going to look up that word. It better bloody exist, Baram, because if you're making that up, I'm going to kick you. So there we are. We finished day 2. Pakistan are 1 for 90 after some 39 overs, with Shafiq on 45 not out after 117 deliveries. And Azhar Ali not out 30 off 79 deliveries. That is magnificent. These two are quintessentially batting as I would love them to bat. Imam Al-Haq got LBW, as we can see, off Cummins for 11. Didn't challenge his dismissals. I think he could have easily done something he didn't, which was impressive. Very impressive indeed. So what have we got? A comment here from Rowan Coley. Rowan Coley, are you related to Virat? Amir Nawaz, Pakistan lost 14 consecutive test matches in Australia, and it's a world record. Australia draws first 2 test matches in pinch between the world number 1 and 6 side. Well, I'm certainly not going to call Pakistan the number 6 side. But we always, and you know what I'm talking about. When you talk about matches that Pakistan have played in Australia, there was one famous one where I think Mike Hussey was in that match, and Pakistan fell apart at the end. There was a lot of discussion whether it was a rigged match or a deliberately. It is a thing that's clouded over Pakistan over years in Australia, and they've done fantastically well over the years in Australia as well. I remember Razak one time batted really well, but the thing is.
Don't forget about Test match when Justin Langer came out after so many years. He said he nicked Wasim Akram at that time. There was no reviews. That Test Pakistan could have won. That was the famous partnership of Langer and Gilchrist that got Aussies over the line. Whereas that Test, Inzi scored 100, Wasim got 5 for, and that was the turning moment when Justin Langer's outside edge was not given out, and there was no reviews.
I remember.
So there's been a few unfortunate incidents, so got to keep them in count.
I think the world in cricket. I know there's always been issues between India and Pakistan. I grant that, but the history of Pakistan cricket, for this ground we built in 1959, and they've got an immense cricketing clout. And let's not forget, back before 1945, was it what year was it? 45, 48? I'm not sure. The year where India and Pakistan were broken into their what they currently are. When was that? 1945 or 49?
47 Pakistan.
47. Sorry, 47. They were one country, and that it's just the whole thing about cricket in Pakistan, obviously in India, and obviously in places like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. It's immense. It is absolutely immense. Nepalese love their cricket too, and it's Bhutan, Oman. It's just wonderful. I love that part of the world. It's my favorite cricketing part of the world. It's just such. Sri Lanka has always been my favorite too because they play in the streets there as well, and I just love that. I've got a great photo of me playing in Dhaka in Bangladesh with the white outfit on, and on the streets. I just got out of a taxi, stopped the taxi, went straight out onto the field and demanded to get the bat and bat it. I just love it.
That's it.
So, okay, 1 for 90. So, effectively, they're 301 behind now, or 301 runs to go.
To get, yeah. But I think, as I said, tomorrow, there's a 20 minutes early start, I think, tomorrow. We've lost a couple of overs day 1, I think. The thing with the day 3 is what they showed just in the last over, the condition of the pitch hasn't cracked as much, which I would consider more crackings appear in during the day, and day 4, day 5 will be challenging batting, whereas day 3 is another good day to bat on. I think Pakistan should cash in tomorrow. They should go past Australia. They should bat cautiously first session, but then session 2 and session 3 is when they should bat with close to 3.5, 4 runs per an over, and by the end of the day, they should be a little in front of Australian total.
Which is effectively just 60% into the test match, which means there's plenty of time for a result.
Plenty of time for results. So then, you remember Australia lost wickets in the middle that halted their momentum, and that's where they were 5 for 205 at one stage. I mean, the partnership at for that 6-wicket partnership over 100 runs, I think rescued them to get nearly 400. Pakistan gets 450. The test match is really imbalanced to finish in day 4, day 5.
Okay. Bahram Irani, he must be drinking. I'm not sure what's going on there, but he's now made a comment. I want to eat shawarma. I hope he's not mucking around.
He wants.
What is that? Is it something I'm not aware of? I normally know my food.
It's the shawarma.
Anyway. Let's just divert. Just go to 1 minute to women's cricket for a moment. Australia absolutely gave it to South Africa today. Even though South Africa got 271, Australia got it with 5 or 6 overs to spare in a canter. And good old Lanning absolutely nailed it with 138 or something. I tell you what, there's a lot of rivalry between Australia and South African women's cricket, because South Africa are pretty good with Marizanne Kapp and Shabnam Ismail, and I'll tell you what, they're scrappers. Those 2 girls, I wouldn't take them on. They claw your eyes out. In fact, I know them both.
I've had experience with Cappy when she was part of Sydney Sixers, and I know she took a hat trick in one game, and she wouldn't smile. The camera was on, and the drone cameras come down, and commentators was trying to talk to her about her hat trick, and you wouldn't get a smile out of her. She's really intense when she's in the field. She's really focused. And you can't get a conversation out of her when she's in the field. So, and Ishmael, similar. You saw her play for Thunder as well, and she was similar. They both are really intense cricketers, and they've got a lot of respect amongst the Aussies as well. And that's why they wanted to do really well. Meg Lanning got a chance when she was in.
They're desperate to win a World Cup. They're desperate to get into a final.
Exactly.
And even they're currently ranked 2nd, which is quite a commendable situation. But they probably all haven't got enough to beat Australia. And they, I'm afraid to say, they're so intense and so desperate to win. It actually is counterintuitive. It actually works against them, because they put way too much pressure on themselves, as does the men's team.
It's like the '99 men's team. They were so intense, and they couldn't beat Aussies in the round game, and then in the semi-final they just they just couldn't get over the line. So I think their South African girls are pretty much similar at this point in time, where they are really doing well against any other oppositions, but they're really intense at the moment. The surprising factor for me in this World Cup was New Zealand, how they were coming into this cup really in good form. In warm-ups, they were dominating, but as soon as the competition started, they were really disappointing. I think that's one. England also, they've just got 2 wins, and they've been disappointing as well. So both New Zealand and England, who have got a really good tradition of women's cricket and have done well in past, England being the reigning champions as well, it's disappointing to see those 2 teams not really continue to dominate. Whereas Australia started off badly with the warm-ups, got absolutely thrashed against New Zealand, but then once they started off, they don't look like they're going to drop the cup, I think.
Did you see the 2 catches today? One from Ashley Gardner, and the other from Mignon Duplessis. Did you see the catches?
I did, yes.
They were the most phenomenal catches.
Look at the transformation in women's cricket. When I first started off in Canberra, when I was part of ACT Meteors, the athleticism was not as highly rated amongst the female cricketers. But now look at this is 10 years on. I think the female cricketers are as athletic as the male cricketers are. They're happy to throw themselves around the park. They're taking screamers. They're just taking absolute beauties on the boundary line as well. So female cricketers have come a long way from last 10 years, and it's really good to watch now. I mean, previously you would see 200 runs and teams would probably say 150, 170 was the winning score, but now girls are scoring hundreds, they're hitting sixes, and they're getting stronger and more athletic.
Well, Meg Lanning's batting skills are through the roof. Shabnam Ismail bowls about 125. She can bowl over 130 as well. She's lethal. She is she is the look. I know them very well.
Hmm.
Shabnam Ismail is the feistiest girl I've ever met. She's 5 foot nothing.
So intense.
You wouldn't take her on in a fight. She would tear you apart.
Thank you.
Marizan Kappa once got her to bring some, of all things, Spartan goods to Sripali Rudakota in Sri Lanka. And something went wrong. The goods went missing. And I was very cranky with her. And the next time she saw me, she was not backwards and coming forward. She was quite nasty, throwing the blame back at me. I'm thinking, hey, wait a minute. You're the one with the goods. You brought them over there. What happened to them? Anyway, it was a long story, but they're very, very feisty characters.
Yes.
And their intensity to win this World Cup is ginormous. Marizan Cap wants to win it. She'll die to win it. But they're not going to win it. The Australia's mentally got it over them. Pakistan, South Africa have never beaten Australia in women's cricket. Never.
Yeah. No.
I believe it's never, especially in the World Cup. Australia are just so mentally dominant, and this is the issue. South Africa got this huge stumbling block. It's going to be interesting because it looks as though South Africa, well, they're going to finish second, and probably will play against someone else in the semi-final, and may well play Australia in the final. That's what it's looking like.
Could be a really good final, Australia versus South Africa. I think.
Oh yeah.
The other team that I would say India is probably another surprise package here with their spinners. They can probably topple the hard-hitting batters, but South Africa's got the pace. They've got the batters to hit some runs as well. I'd like to see Australia South Africa play a grand final. I think that would be a classic, and I think Australia is too strong to win the cup.
It's funny. South Africa have taken 1 wicket, I think, in the whole series by spinner, whereas other countries have had 20 or 30 wickets taken by spinner. It's quite interesting. I'm very proud of Bangladesh, the way they've handled it. They've come out, having never been in the World Cup, they've knocked over Pakistan, almost beat the West Indies, were pretty strong against other countries as well. And you know, it's and I think I believe they've not played Australia before. They may have played them in the T20 format, but not in an ODI format. No. And it's a great achievement for a country like Bangladesh to do that. Lata Mandol batted today for Bangladesh. She's in and out of the side. She batted fantastically. She only got 20 on, but technically she was brilliant.
Really good, yeah. And I think that's what my comment was, the way that the cricket has developed in female part of the section, especially led by Australia, England, New Zealand, and South Africa. It's now, well, India has always been a good with the female cricketers, but now teams like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, they have started to come with some really good athletes who are started to come good as well. Sana Mir was one of the ex-Pakistan captains. She was pretty good as an all-rounder. Bisma Maroof, this cup, she's come back after maternity leave in a second game, scored 78. So the ladies are coming good. I think they're more watchable now. The crowd actually is growing in numbers, appreciating female athletes showing their skills. And today, as it was really good to see the way that ladies have thrown themselves around and taken those screamers, which you would not associate about 10 years ago, that the ladies would be that athletic in cricket to be able to take or match men's in terms of that skill level. So I think good semi-final set coming in, and I'm looking forward to it.
Rowan Coley saying the Australian women's cricket team is better than the Australian men's cricket team. actually, statistically at the moment, I don't think he's wrong there. No. I reckon I think that's a fair call. Actually, I think that they're certainly statistically doing so bloody well. But they've got this incredible air of confidence about what they're doing. Every player that comes to the side is, really this young leg spinner. What's her name? In King from WA. She's like she's been there for years. She's such a natural.
And Warnie's is aspiration. And when she got that wicket in the game after Warnie's passing away, she dedicated the wicket straight away to Warnie and spoke quite highly about how she started bowling by looking at Shane Warne's YouTube videos and whatnot, and had a session with Shane Warne as well. So good on her, and saying that confidence, as you spoke, is quite high in girls at the moment, and I don't see them dropping off before winning the cup. It'd be good to
No,
see.
it's. I mean, I'm very fortunate because, as you know, I've got a lot of contacts in female cricket. Some I wish I didn't have. Some a bit of a pain, but I mean, a couple of Sri Lankan girls in particular with Nalakshya Silva. She's going to come out here again this summer. She's bringing a few other girls with her. And there's a certain coach that's in Brisbane who's trying to poach her, saying that let Norman pay for her to come to Sydney and then you can come to Brisbane. I said, no way, mate. You're going to want her in Brisbane, pal. You're going to have to pay me $2,000 or $3,000, fella.
True.
I'm not going to provide you a red carpet for that girl. And I hope you're watching this, because I hope you're hearing me, because I've got no time for you.
No, that's true.
A former so-called coach of Sri Lanka, who was diabolical, who needs to be banished. And I won't go into any more detail, but I'm sure you know who you are. And stop poaching girls that I bring out here thinking that you can slyly do the little scumbag. I'm sorry, but that's my thoughts. And I'm very happy to call you a scumbag, because I've got no time for you. And you are the most corrupt person I've met in a long, long time. And someone should be dealing with that, as opposed to what's actually happened. So sorry to be so blunt, but I'm afraid sometimes you need to be honest about people.
Really surprised, Norman. He's appointed 2 years for one of the club coaches, and he's running that club with quite success at the moment. But yeah, what you've said is spot on.
Yeah, I've got no time for people who do that. But you know what? Karma, good old karma comes back. The best thing about, I mean, a lot of the Indian players and Indian administration, I've got a lot of time for, and the Pakistani administration, we always hear the good and the bad about countries, but some of the most, how can I put this, the most dignified and respectful and the most eloquent and sort of at all levels are from Pakistan, are from parts of India, are from Bangladesh, without a doubt. I'm really impressed. It's very honourable to know these people, and you know what I'm talking about. The people there are some amazing people who have got their heads in the right space, and it's such a. I look at the shots of Lahore and I love what I see. I just love what I'm seeing. Just even the picturesque nature of that whole area where the Gaddafi Stadium is just amazing. It's got a step. That's a country which can hold an Olympics. Okay, the way that the buildings are.
Yeah.
Unlike, I'm afraid, Brisbane's probably not as good as them.
No, I think they've got a lot of work to do in the next 10 years to get up to speed, I suppose.
I mean, look, it's hard for Brisbane to do as well as Sydney and Melbourne did in the past, because let's be honest, one of the best Olympics in the world ever was Sydney, and Melbourne at its time was also up there. So it's a bit hard to compete. All right, let's get back to cricket. Yeah, this is an amazing match. I'm enjoying it immensely. I can't get my eyes off, especially when the top order of Pakistan bat, when Shafiq, Imam Al-Haq and Azhar Ali bat, and Babar Azam, of course, but in particular those top three, something about their batting. It's just, Australia must be quite frustrated when they're playing against them, I'm sure, because they're finding it very hard to get them out.
Exactly right. I think they've done really well coming out, especially Imam, who hasn't played first-class cricket for nearly 10 months, and then he's came out, scored back-to-back 100. He's been unfortunate since then. He hasn't scored one big significant innings, but impressive is Shafiq, who's only played 4 tests before this, coming in against Aussie bowling attack and really taking that number 2 opening spot of his own. I think when Abid Ali comes in, Imam might have to make space for him, but Shafiq has done well in all 3 venues, in all 3 different conditions. And not just first innings, second innings as well. Like second innings 96 that he batted was amazing skill set he's shown. First test match, second innings as well, that 100. First inning he made that silly shot and that silly run out. I think those 2 dismissals will be a really good learning curve for him. to go on and get better in making those decisions, because those two were poor decisions basically. And I think Azhar has got a couple more years to carry. I think he's fit enough. He's scoring runs. I don't see him going anywhere in next couple of years. He's got to play 100 Test match and try and get to that 10,000 mark, which has been a benchmark for many years. I think he's up for it. And then of course your middle order with Babar and Rizwan have done amazingly well as well. Rizwan's 100 and Babar's 196 was again the pillar for Pakistan saving that Test match in Karachi. Spot number 5 is questionable. You and I both agree with Fawad Alam and that technique against the pace. I think he's quite vulnerable. He's probably short-living, probably another 1 test or 2 tests maximum if he does well in this Test match. Otherwise, he's got to make way for another youngster.
So Pakistan are playing England and South Africa. When I say soon, I'm not sure when, but it probably won't be during the IPL cycle. It'll probably be sometime over what is effectively summer, isn't it? Summer coming up.
Summer coming up, yes.
But they seem to play more cricket in winter than they do summer.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they do, because summer gets really hot and dry. As even this spring season, you saw Karachi was mid 35s and it was really hot. So the temperatures out in the middle becomes really unbearable. So I think the normal season used to start in end of August, similar to Australia, but they're heading towards their winter, where we're here heading towards our summer. So that type of a time period is more suited, or you play January, February, March, which is again heading towards spring. So that's more likely a season for Pakistan. They can't really play in May, June, or July, because it's really, really hot, dry, and it just seeps the energy out of it. You might be playing, if you want to play day and night Test match, which starts at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but you can't really get out and have that have a cricket season in summer in Pakistan.
I'm just being corrected, and I think, and that is correct. England and New Zealand are playing in Pakistan, not South Africa.
Not South Africa. You're right.
Yeah. So, but England and New Zealand, they're going to be intense. I mean, the Pakistan team will be super impressed, because England and New Zealand in Pakistan will very much like Australia, and there'll be plenty of good batting going on. And it'll be actually, I'd love to see Trent Boult and Southee bowl in Pakistan. And even Neil Wagner will have a field day. He'll love it. He's gutsy. He's such a gutsy bowler.
Patel got 10 for in India. Imagine that in Pakistan.
Oh wow!
So that'd be good.
Or even James Anderson, if he's allowed to, or Stuart Broad having it. That's what we missed. That's what we haven't had. We needed to have those sorts of series. Would have been
versus Babar Azam in Pakistan would be really good. I think that's really a good matchup. Shaheen Afridi bowling to Joe Root and Ben Stokes and trying to get him out early. I think that would be a good match.
Oh, it'd be fantastic.
I saw a comment in the comment section regarding the T20 Cup prediction. I think Australia and New Zealand are hot favourite. I think New Zealand have always done well in Australia conditions. Outside chance, I would say India, depending on where their games are. But I think with bouncy fast tracks, Australia is really strong contender. I think New Zealand is not far behind, and you and I both see New Zealand quite often here coming in and playing in the Big Bash. Their players coming in and playing in Big Bash and often doing really well. I see similar conditions for them. They'll be good contenders, I suppose.
Okay. Can you explain to me why India do not play Pakistan in Test cricket? I understand the political nature of it, because they do play in World Cups.
Yeah.
In Asia Cups. Yeah. They play in all sorts of other short-term, like short-form tournaments. So why aren't we playing Test cricket? If there's a so-called ban between those two countries, they wouldn't be playing in anything.
It's just because the ICC dictates during the ICC competitions. But it's just shame, and it's really, really disappointing because the political nature of both countries, they don't allow their teams to travel either to either side. They could have played in a neutral venue in Abu Dhabi or Dubai or whatever, but again, it's a political nature for both countries. They don't allow them to have a bilateral series, whether it is a one-day T20 or a test, which is really shame. Cricket loving community is missing out on a quality cricket where they used to see Sachin versus Wasim or Waqar. They're not seeing that with Kohli, Baba, and Shaheen and Bumrah and all of the likes of Ashwin and Jadeja doing their crafts against Pakistan. I think it is really shame if the countries are not allowing them to play in their home soil. I still think that they should be smart enough to go play at the neutral venue. I think it would be a bigger seller than Ashes because there's more population that be watching that test match. Your TV, expats are everywhere in this world. They'll be watching that test match. The viewership would be higher than anything else that you can imagine. So I think it's shame. Cricket world is missing. You and I are missing out, and a lot of your and my and mindset of you and my would agree with us that it's a shame for cricket.
I mean, the last test was a Chinnaswamy test.
That's right.
Stadium's test in Bengal, which I was there with Shahbaz Tambol. And then I think within a year or so, both the combination of Sri Lanka and attacks on Sri Lankan players and the so-called Mumbai attack on Mumbai, that attack on the Taj Palace and the like, where there was, I think, the Marriott. It's since then that they haven't played Test cricket, and I'm so privileged to have been at that last India-Pakistan match with Shoaib Akhtar absolutely adoring the crowd, giving it to him, and he was just revving them up, and it was just theatre. It was absolute theatre.
Amazing, yeah. Someone commented that why don't I rate Pakistan doing well in Australia? I think Pakistan will be up there, but the thing that I worry about is the pace and the bounce and the pitches that might do a lot of batters. I know there's quality batting in Pakistan, but I think they'll be a little bit tested in Australia still. They haven't done well in recent past in Australia. If you look at the recent 5 or 6 years when they've travelled Australia, they have not really done well. Whereas India have been very, very competitive when they've toured here, whether it is Test One Day or 2020. So that's my reason for not saying Pakistan could win, but they won the World Cup in 1992. We all know under the captaincy of Imran Khan, the current Prime Minister. So Pakistan have done well in Australian patches, but it has to be really everything going for in their favour to be able to win. So it's tough ask, but it's not impossible. But when you're asking for the favourites, I think I would probably say Pakistan. Not so much favourites behind these three. My top three are Australia, New Zealand, and India.
Yeah. So, have you had a chance to look at the Australian fan reaction video I spoke to Stephen O'Keefe? Did you see that? I uploaded it about 6 or 7 hours ago. Have a look at it. It's a bit of a little chat with Stephen O'Keefe. All right, so what have I got here? Rowan Coley. Now, is that your name, Rowan Coley? Is that your name? Okay. Wasim Akbar destroyed Pakistan cricket because he lives in the 90s? Question to Mosen. 90s. I can't read it. Never won a World Cup since. Well, yeah, Pakistan haven't won a World Cup since '92. A lot of countries haven't won for a long time as well. I mean, Pakistan have won titles though since
ICC Champions Trophy and T20 World Cup. They won. And he's right with when Wasim was captain. I think there was a lot of tug and war in political and whatnot. They haven't won one day World Cup. They've been into quarters in Australia. They've been into semis, but they haven't won. They haven't won a World Cup. You're right. It'd be good to see Pakistan again doing well. But again, my point was, the team hasn't done really well in Australia since that era. So that's why my comment was hard to see Pakistan really winning the championship unless everything goes in their favour.
Okay. Yeah, look, it's been. I've enjoyed this, and I'm so glad. Again, we love cricket, whether it's Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. We love cricket. The women's cricket's been fantastic. The men's has been also fantastic. There's a lot of superlatives coming out. Women's cricket's. I mean, look, sometimes it gets a little bit tedious, some of the games, but like the West Indies versus, it was still an enthralling match. West Indies played, I think it was Pakistan, and Pakistan almost beat them. No, Bangladesh almost beat them actually. But West Indies just look very lazy. They're a very capable team, but they get very lazy, especially mentally. I don't know what it is with these teams. They can be they can play below par. When you look at the talent they have available to them, it's quite incredible how they play. All right, let's have a look here. We've got somebody who's spamming here. Wasim Akram is the main culprit. Okay, all right. I don't think there's anyone who's a culprit at all. I think the whole thing is these blokes. Wasim Akram is an amazingly, he's an amazing person. He's extremely, he's a, what's the word for? He's a real diplomat of his country, and he gets along with everybody. It's very rare that he has any problems with people. He's very distinguished. That whole era, even both Waqar Younis and Wasim Akram, and you've got the Viv Richards from the West Indies, and all those people have got class about them. They behave well, and even you've got to give credit to Shane Warne. He did that as well. But then there are some of the current players that haven't learnt that. They've got a bit of arrogance about them, and this I'm better than everybody else, and I just don't like it.
And I think that stardom that we saw when I was growing up in the 80s, watching Benson and Hedges one-day series at the time. I was in Pakistan, waking up in the middle of the night and watching Richie Beno talk about Benson and Hedges cricket that was called at the time, and coloured white ball, coloured clothing, and that
magnificent.
It was stardom. The cricket was stardom. I think that stardom is dying. There are few stars that you look at and go, oh wow, but that whole era, the 80s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s, the teams were full of stardom. West Indies, everyone with gold chains and tall guys and terrorizing the batting, and then Wills and Greenidges and Haynes of that time would come in and destroy any bowling attack, and then the Aussies in the middle with the War brothers and Dean Jones, and his famous altercation they were showing on Fox today when he asked Curtly Ambrose to take his wristband off. That stardom was there, and I think it died a little bit in the mid to late 2000s. I think since Warne era and Murli era is finished, I think the stardom is not there, which is shame. The cricket wants that stardom. They want to see those guys walk down with some presence, some aura about them. I think there's only a handful of cricketers that you can name now that have got that kind of stardom, I suppose.
Yeah, it's money as well, more so. Manav Kumar saying, why is Australia bowlers not reverse swing? Well, they are. Cameron Green certainly was doing. Pat Cummins certainly seems to be. Stark is inaccurate at the moment, but he was doing it too. Satvik Bagari is asking, is Australian fielding gone down? Everyone wants to get all of our views. I think it has. I think this whole first slip being too far in front has not worked.
Very close. It hasn't worked. I agree. And Smith, they showed Smith 3 catches drops all the time. The reaction time is very minimum. Australia, they're used to standing in Australia quite deep where the ball carries, and it carries a comfortable height and a comfortable pace. They have time to adjust and take catches. Whereas here they're standing too close, and they're not used to catching that closely, and the ball and the reaction time is very, very little, and they haven't adjusted well. So I think that's one thing. And before they go to Sri Lanka and India, they got to adjust, and they got to practice quite a lot. And you see a number of times Smith is actually standing in front of the keeper. And one catch that went between him and keeper was when he dived for a catch that wasn't his. Keeper would have taken it 99% out of 100. But he thought he had to go for it because he's too far in front of the keeper. He can't position himself where the keeper is. So now the converse side of it, this match they're standing a bit too wide. So Smith is standing at 1.5 slip pretty much. So the edge that Azhar Ali had went between him and Carey easily. So he had that uncomfortable ball jumped on him, and he just he got rushed and the nick didn't even go through to Smith at 1.5 or Carey. If Smith was at normal conventional slip, he would have swallowed it. But that's the thing that they need to adjust.
Now, a couple of questions there. Subject Bagaro saying, do you think Australia should have scored 450 after the Carey Green pass? Yes, they should have. They probably should have. 391 is just not enough, I don't think. And also, should Travis Head have been dropped? The more I think about it, the more it would have been a smart move not to have him play in this match. It's again the selectors. I understand they wait a person's time since their last century. I understand that. But sometimes you have to make a bold move and say a person's not right for a series, despite Travis Head's centuries, or even for that matter, Scott Boland's fifers. This is a good point. Batters, if they get a century, they tend to stay for 2 or 3 series. A bowler could get 5 wickets. They could be out the next test match.
Exactly, and that's what happened to Barrel. He should have been playing this test match, and Heads should have been dropped. We spoke about this yesterday, how Brad Haddon and Mark Waugh were discussing this in pre-show as well. They should have gone with a different approach in this test, and had proved in this game, in this innings, that 26 was scratchy. He got dropped before 26 as well, so he had 2 innings to get 26 again in this, and he didn't look like that he was going to make runs. He was very uncomfortable. He didn't handle the reverse at all, and the pace of Naseem got him again. So I think he's not in that space where he's bullying runs in Australian conditions. But as soon as he's out of that comfort zone, he's again back to his old trait of not scoring run consistently. So you got to go beyond him now in Sri Lanka and India. It's a perfect opportunity in Sri Lanka to blood someone else in at number 5. If you want to bring another opener to go open with Warner, then Uzi can come back at bat number 5. I think he's proved that he can handle that middle order position as well. So good opportunity. If Koski is right, they can bring Koski up to open with Warner in Sri Lanka, or even take Patterson, take Sangha, and take Inglis as a spare keeper to subcontinent tours for next 2.
Now, Baramarani sent me okay, so an ornithologist is actually a person who's an expert on birds. Well, I'm an expert on birds, but they've got 2 legs, not 4 legs. The birds have 4 legs. You get my point. All right. All right. So I've just noticed that they've interviewed Cameron Green at the post-match conference. And I'm assuming they've also they would have probably interviewed someone from Pakistan, I'm guessing. Yeah, they have. Shaheen Afridi is he spoke to the public, the media as well, which is good. So I've got some videos to put up there.
Yep.
Where are we? Norm Koch. All right. Okay. All right. Thanks again, Moses. That was fantastic. And we've had a great session once again. So I'll talk more tomorrow, hopefully.
Thank you very much to yourself. Thank you very much to your audience. Great discussions, and look forward to wrapping up day 3 and seeing where the game has moved forward, and catch tomorrow.
Thanks, Moses. Thank you very much. Bye. It's always great to have Moses in there. He's got incredible depth of knowledge not only across Australian cricket, but across world cricket, and obviously with his Pakistan connections, he's got an incredible amount of insight to provide us as an audience, and that includes me. So Cameron Green, he's had a good chat to the public. Let's have a look at this. Cameron Green is just coming to date 12:13. Yep, that's it there. So look at these 2 items. I mean, Cameron Green has certainly got lots to talk about. He's such a young person, but he's got already this air of confidence about him. He didn't get as many runs as he would like to have gotten. I'm pretty sure, but he did a great job nonetheless, and deserves all the credit that he gets. He's a magnificent player, isn't he? There's no doubt about that. and I would rank him very highly on the list of players to play for Australia in the future. It's all about whether he keeps his nose clean, which I'm talking more about his physical health, I think, more than anything else. So I'm just going to have to just bear with me, guys. I'll just put this up. So what I'm doing while you're talking, I'm just putting up the video of Cameron Green. I've got the right name for cricket, Cameron Green. I reckon it's a pretty switched on name, if you ask me. Cricket Australia. The speed at which these guys put up these videos is just amazing. So it's post day 2. Lahore. So I can put third test up. Well, that's too many. Yeah, so any more questions, guys? Rattle off your questions. There's lots we can talk about. We all know that there's so much going on in the world of cricket at the moment. There's the IPL that's coming up to. And have you seen? I put out a video only in the last few hours about that, which is my efforts to try and get people in Australia to have their reaction to it, the whole thing, which is it's. I mean, the PSL. I'll do more for that next year. I think that's worth covering as well. I mean, we shouldn't have this problem. We should be able to have a healthy rivalry between all countries regarding their sport, and that's one thing I would say without any doubt, that we need to be more aware of that. So, yeah. So, long live cricket. Long live Test cricket. Long live the rivalry between countries in a healthy manner. And let's have as much Test cricket as we possibly can, because we can't. It's not a dying format, but it needs to be given the credibility it has. And the best thing that's ever happened was the move towards the World Test Championship, because that's allowing cricket to have this sense of a World Cup for Test cricket, which was probably the one thing that was lacking for sure. And I'd have to admit that it was something that was certainly lacking. So, Sadvik Bakari is always asking good questions. Many Australian players are not able to perform in the subcontinent because they haven't had much exposure to them. It's their first time. I mean, it's the first time for many. It's the first time for many people from Pakistan to play Test cricket there as well. Since the retirement of Warner McGrath, yes, that's probably a fair point. Those two were pretty damn good. They were gutsy players. They tried very hard. They were just amazingly talented. You know, really, it's a great thing to be able to see Test cricket. Test cricket is the real leveler. It shows your true form. It shows your true. It tests your ability. It tests your stamina. It tests your overall mental approach. Very important. It's a very big part of very big part of Test cricket is the test nature of it, meaning that the war of attrition, the way that we go about, making sure that we survive, and that's what we're talking about here, and that's the beauty of it. I'm all for it, guys. I'm all for it. So we've got interviews from those two. We've got Baba Azam as well. Not Baba Azam, Shaheen, I should say. Shaheen speaks to the public. He's he's a good character. He seems like a real jovial character. He gets along with Harris Ralph very well. They're very close friends, and I have a lot of time for Harris Ralph. So Harris Ralph likes him. I like him. Put it that way. That's what I would say. Australia's fielding, yes, has been a bit lackluster. The slip fielding certainly dropped off. Some of their outfielding is perhaps not as good. I mean, Usman Khawaja, a great batter as he is not the best of fielders. Travis said, mixed reviews on him. I can't get too excited about his fielding, actually, if I'm being really honest with you. This is Shaheen. Here we go. Shaheen Afridi. Let's see what he looks like. Yeah, he's got a bit of a character look on him. Let's see. There's two press conferences. So he's a real character. There's no doubt about that. Shaheen Afridi. A lot of time for him. I think he's just the way he carries on. So there's a lot of fun. The way he does the big hand movements. I love that. Don't you? Do you guys love that? The way that he carries on. It is comical. It's fun. So opening bowler, Shaheen Afridi. Whenever I hear the name Afridi, I think of the obvious, the Afridi that we all know, who was by far the Shaheen Afridi is a name that is synonymous with what Afridi is the name of a record. It was just such a spark when he played both short form and long form cricket. He was just amazing. So Shaheen Shah Afridi. I should remember the word Shah there. Shaheen Shah Afridi. There we are. Opening bowler and player of the year as well, wasn't it? It's quite a feat. This whole cricket board. Post day 2. I might have to put down. No, that's right. Yeah, that's good. All right. Any other questions, guys? You're not asking me any questions. It always worries me when you don't ask me questions because I'd like to get questions from you. Getting questions from you means more than anything else because the questions are what's on your mind, what you want to hear. No other questions. What happens? Sadfiq Patakaris asked the last one. Shaheen. There it is. No questions. Because if there are no questions, I'll have to finish the session because post day 2 is now over. Third test, not thread, but third test in Lahore. I'm not getting more questions. We're missing questions, guys. And it was great to have Mosen. Mosen's always good. He always has a very candid thought process, and we have a good argument about a few of the players, and it always goes well. Always goes well. And I love having David Graveney normally is on as well. Of course, he's not here today, but he normally is on as well. So there we are. So as a playlist. Shaheen Afridi. There we go. All right. So, as far as I'm aware, there's a lot of conjecture over the selections of both teams. Australia about the bowling side of things, and obviously with Pakistan, I probably should have had a leg spinner in there maybe, but their batting lineup was fantastic. A lot of time for the batting lineup of Pakistan. They've shown to me, anyway, that and to you how important they really are. Are we right, guys? We seem to be. We're still there. Nobody's asking questions. It just worries me when there's no one asking questions. We've got people listening, but they're not watching. Okay. So both Cameron Green and the likes of Shaheen Shah Afridi have been able to provide us with a fantastic, both young and exuberant, probably two of the youngest players that are on board. And they both have a lot to offer. I think you'd have to say a lot to offer the future of Test cricket that's probably the most important thing. And there's a lot to be said about the way that Shaheen Afrique holds himself. He's now one of the characters of. He's just such a character, and his celebration. You watch all the kids now are all doing it. I love the way kids copy the reactions. I think it's just wonderful to watch that happening. It's just very, very special indeed. And he seems like a real meaty sort of character. Really loves his cricket. You can't help but enjoy that type of situation. I love it. I really do. I think it just adds to the whole thing. Oops, we've got StreamYard going. Oh, I've got StreamYard. So I'm going to push that open there. The dashboards, it's just great. It's such a little processor right here. All right, so what do we got here? Okay, well, something that splurge of questions. Carey has played better than Labuschagne in the series. He definitely has. Why Smith is not converting his century, I don't know. Mentally, he's got a bit of a stumbling block there. Carey has played. Norman, when Australia women cricket team win 7th ODI World Cup, should start with a cake cutting. We will. Why not, Rohan Nicole? We'll do that. Blessing Mazrubani and Zimbabwe has been added to the LSG squad in place of Mark Wood. Right. Blessing Musabani of Zimbabwe. Okay. I have a question. After knowing pitch conditions, then why Australia did not try to bring Australia to play? I totally agree. Agar and even Boland. And see, Mitchell Stark hasn't performed in that. Travis Head. They could have dropped Travis Head and Mitchell Stark with Boland and Agar. That would have been a much better, a stronger bowling attack. I think Austin Agar could have played instead of Cam Green. Not Cam Green, no, Travis Head. I'm going to celebrate with cake when Australia was. I will. How many years do you think Coley has career in his hands left? He could go 4 or 5 more, guys. I wouldn't concern yourself with how long he's going to play. He'll be around for a fair while. You watch. He won't be going anywhere in any hurry. He won't be going anywhere in any hurry. Although he has dropped captaincy positions from all levels, which is an interesting situation. Is that a sign that his career is ending? No, I think it's the longevity of his career is actually ending rather than the ending of his career. But because by actually doing that, he's allowing himself to be free of captaincy duties and play longer. So that's probably the intentions of what he's doing. That's what I would suggest. Coley should play longer. Imagine if he gets his act together and starts scoring centuries again. That 71 will go to 100 pretty quickly. I'll tell you now. Okay, so that's been done. Ads pending. No, there's ads pending. Okay. All right, so that's that. Very impressive. How many years do you think? Oh, well, I've just talked about it already, haven't I, about the Coley situation? I think 4 or 5 years. Why not? Well, it's been a very entertaining day. Maybe you wouldn't think so, but the scorecard ended up with Australia. Pakistan were 1 for 90, and Australia were all out for 391. So, on that basis, we've got a very healthy situation. So Ocon is eating places. Look at all these rubbish emails coming through. Stephen Gumbury, this weird thing. I stupidly once put my name down for some whiz-bang tablet for something, and it was a complete waste of time. All right, so yes. All right. It's very close to 1.5 hours, guys, which is a time frame that I work with. So don't forget to subscribe, view, like, and share. Subscribe to Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. Share around. Get people to hit the subscribe button, also the notification button. Go to Norm Koch, which is my Twitter and my Instagram, and Norman Kochnik have a Facebook and LinkedIn page. Well, some people have been interacting with me of late, which has been really, really good. And I have this video, must watch Australian fan reaction about the IPO. I think that's rather interesting. I'd like more people to see that. So that's one thing I'd certainly like you all to see. And we need more subscribers. Simple as that. Need more subscribers. But I need to be able to, I shouldn't try and put the results of the match there. Let's have a look here. Normally I put up the results pretty quickly. So Shafiq and Aga and Azara. Some great photos there. I'm really impressed with the photos they've got here. So Pakistan builds steadily on Nazim Shah's reverse swinging. Yeah, really after Alex Carey and Cameron Green, there was a lot of potential to score a lot more runs that they didn't do. So I'm going to win. Oh well. How many years I've already talked about already? All right, guys. Let's view, like, and share. Subscribe. See you tomorrow on the review of day 3. Hopefully, we'll have more of a result pending there in the match. All the best.